Hey guys. Tonight we're drifting back, way back, to a sunlit slice of myth where wine runs thicker than water. Gods wear disguises, and if you're not careful, you might just get turned into a dolphin. You're standing barefoot on a warm, stony coastline in ancient Greece, where the tide glitters like someone spilled a goblet of gold and the cicadas are out singing each other in the heat. It's that sleepy hour when reality blurs just enough to let in a little divine mischief. And then you see him. At first glance, he looks like a traveler who's had one too many. Loose curls tumble over his shoulders. His robe's half unbuttoned, and he's humming to himself, probably in an ancient language that hasn't been spoken since Atlantis got its last plumbing upgrade. But something's off. The breeze seems to follow him instead of the other way around. And his footprints? Yeah, the sand grows wildflowers after each step. That's Dionysus. You may know him as the wine god, the patron of parties and late-night regret. But don't let the smile fool you. This guy is also the god of frenzy, madness, and uncomfortable moral lessons. And the mortals who forget that, well, they usually don't get a second chance. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, I'd love to know, where are you listening from? And what time is it in your corner of the world? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk a little closer, pretending not to stare, but he's already clocked you. His eyes, deep, honey-colored, and annoyingly amused, slide in your direction. He nods once. You nod back. You weren't planning on following a possible god along the coast today. But hey, what else is new? The rocks warm your feet as you trail behind him. The shoreline smells like figs and salt. And your brain keeps insisting this is a bad idea, but your feet aren't listening. You pass a small fishing hut. Then a half-buried amphora leaking something that definitely isn't seawater. Dionysus pauses beside a sea-worn boulder and gazes out over the bay. His fingers tap his thigh in rhythm to some music only he can hear. And then, you hear voices. Out on the water, a ship bobs lazily, sails down, crew squinting at the figure on shore. They're sunburned, half-drunk, and way too confident for their own good. Tyrrhenian pirates. The kind that makes their living from snatching anyone who looks remotely wealthy or too dazed to scream. And Dionysus? He looks like both. You wave your arms. You call out, maybe to warn them, maybe just to do something. But nobody listens. The pirates lean over the railings, pointing, whispering to each other. You recognize that look. They think they've found easy profit. Some noble's son or wandering priest maybe. Lost from his group, ripe for ransom. They toss a rope ladder overboard and row a skiff toward shore. Dionysus doesn't move. He stretches his arms, yawns theatrically, and walks straight into the trap. Not even a twitch of concern. You're half expecting him to vanish in a puff of purple smoke. But instead, he lets them grab his arms, gently, like they're too scared to hurt him, and usher him onto the ship. You, because curiosity is a disease, find yourself scrambling up behind them. The ship creaks as you board. And immediately you regret this decision. It smells like fish oil and ancient beer. The men grin at each other, already dreaming of what they'll buy with the ransom. Dionysus is seated at the center, serene as a lotus blossom in a storm. That's when it hits you. He's letting them do this. And you suddenly remember a historical tidbit you once overheard in a market stall. Dionysus never punishes impulsively. No, he waits, just long enough for you to think you're getting away with it. Then he drops the wine-soaked hammer. You shuffle to the edge of the ship and sit on a coil of rope, trying not to breathe through your nose. Dionysus glances at you once, almost like he knows you're not with the pirates. He winks. Your stomach flips. Maybe it's the sea. Maybe it's impending doom. As the ship drifts away from shore, a strange quiet settles. No birds, no wind, just the slap of water on wood and the faint whistle of the helmsman, an older guy with deep frown lines and eyes too sharp for this bunch. He looks at Dionysus, then at you, and slowly stops whistling. You think he knows. Historians still argue whether the pirates had any idea who they'd just picked up. Some say they were too drunk to notice the aura. Others believe they knew exactly what they were doing, and did it anyway. That's the thing about Greek myths. Pride and stupidity often go hand in hand. Above, the sky darkens just a shade. Though it's still mid-morning. You feel the shift, like the sea's holding its breath. The helmsman steps away from the tiller and walks to the captain, whispering furiously. The captain shrugs him off. One of the younger crewmen laughs and flicks a grapestem at Dionysus. You want to disappear into the deck. But Dionysus just smiles. You know that smile. It's the kind your older cousin gave you just before convincing you to ride a sled down a frozen staircase. It's the calm before chaos grin of someone who knows exactly what happens next and has chosen to let it happen. You clutch the railing as the ship turns. Drifting further from land, the air grows heavier, not hot, just sweet, like overripe fruit and warm wine. And then Dionysus hums again. The hum gets into your bones. You're not even sure it's coming from his mouth anymore. It's like the planks of the ship are resonating with him. The ropes tremble. A tiny breeze picks up. And for a moment, it smells unmistakably like fermented honey. Not in a good way. More like the scent of something forgotten in the sun for too long. You glance around. The crew? Still laughing. Still clueless. The pirates are settling into their usual habits. Someone's trying to fix a hole in the sail with old twine. Another one is carving a fish into the mast. A third is singing a very off-key song about gold and girls, which you immediately wish you could unhear. But there's one guy, young, missing a front tooth, who's got his eyes fixed on Dionysus with this smug little smirk. He leans toward the god, raises a greasy wineskin, and says, "Thirsty, stranger?" Dionysus turns slowly, looks him dead in the eye, and replies, "Always." The pirate throws the wineskin, which Dionysus catches effortlessly. He takes a sip and suddenly the whole ship tilts. No, not like a storm. It's subtle, like gravity's just a suggestion now. You blink and swear the mast is leaning ever so slightly left. Even though the wind's completely still. The helmsman notices. He's at the rudder, hands tight on the grips. And his knuckles are white. He keeps darting glances at Dionysus like someone silently yelling at their boss across the dinner table. You wander closer. Maybe he knows something. Maybe you just want to stand near someone who hasn't completely lost the plot. He speaks under his breath, barely moving his lips. "That's no man." You nod. "No kidding." He cuts a glance at you. We should have thrown him back on shore. But you didn't, you say, trying to keep your voice light. So now what? The helmsman shrugs. Now we hope he gets bored before he gets angry. You laugh. It's not a good laugh. It sounds like someone trying not to cry in a library. Down on the deck, the rest of the crew starts arguing over who'll fetch the ransom. The captain says they'll head north. Someone in Ionia owes him a favor. Another insists they should go south to Crete, better wine, bigger bribes. They bicker, sweat glistening under the noon sun, while Dionysus sits cross-legged on a pile of nets, gently feeding a seagull from his palm. It perches there like a trained bird. You think, that's weird. Seagulls don't do that. And then something catches your eye. The wood, the ship's railings, they're greener than they were. You lean down. Ivy is creeping, actual ivy, up from the bottom of the hull, snaking around the edges of the deck like it's been waiting for an invitation. No one notices at first. The ship's so loud with yelling and laughter and creaking ropes that you might have missed it yourself. But then someone tries to move a barrel and shouts, "Hey, what is this?" The vines are holding the barrel in place. Leaves burst from between the deck boards. The mast groans, not from strain, but from sudden growth. It's sprouting, right there in front of everyone. Green shoots spiraling upward, wrapping the sails, which are turning from linen white to a deep, bruised purple. The wine smell intensifies. A sailor screams. You look over and see red liquid pouring out of the seams between the planks. It's not blood, it's wine. Full-bodied, ruby red, impossibly fragrant. You lean closer. It smells like raspberries, roasted almonds, and, oddly, smoke. Someone dips a finger in, tastes it, and goes absolutely still. He whispers, "It's the best wine I've ever tasted." Then the animals start showing up. There's no polite way to put it. 1 minute, you're on a pirate ship. The next, there's a full-grown leopard lounging near the bow, licking its paw like it owns the place. You blink. A fox trots by carrying a bunch of grapes in its mouth. A peacock, not native to anywhere nearby, struts past, dragging its tail over the captain's boots. Nobody invited them. That's when the panic hits. The crew loses its collective mind. One guy throws himself overboard without hesitation, disappearing with a splash. Another tries to climb the rigging, only to find it's now covered in thorny vines. The ship lurches again, and you swear it's not the waves doing it, it's the weight of something else. Dionysus hasn't moved, still sitting there, still smiling. He's cradling a small wine cup made of gold that definitely wasn't there a second ago. You grab the railing to steady yourself and whisper to the helmsman. "Okay, now what?" He just mutters. "I warned them." One pirate starts sobbing. Another is shouting prayers to Poseidon. Yet another, possibly the only one who knows how to read, tries to quote something from Hesiod, hoping ancient words will stop modern mayhem. But it's too late. You get the feeling Dionysus has been waiting for this moment. The moment when the joke curdles into something else. He stands slowly, gracefully, like a dancer, or a knife being unsheathed. The wine overflows from the seams now. The deck is soaked. The animals circle calmly. The ivy pulses like it has a heartbeat. And still, most of them don't get it. Still, they think this might be a trick, or a hallucination, or a dream. But you've seen that look before. The one your teacher gave you the moment before handing back a failed test. The one your mom had before telling you the truth about Santa. The calm before the storm. Dionysus lifts one hand, palm up. The animals freeze. The ship falls silent. Even the wind stops. And then, he winks. The wink is your only warning. One heartbeat. You're standing on a ship soaked in magical wine and overrun with jungle fauna. The next, you're watching grown men scream and stumble as their world tilts into absolute madness. Because Dionysus doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't need to. He just flicks his fingers slightly, as if brushing away a stray crumb. And that's all it takes. The ship lurches, not from waves, but from something else, something older than time, deeper than reason. The sky seems to stretch and squirm. Shadows wobble like they're drunk. Your balance vanishes. You grab the nearest mast, which feels warm and soft, almost like tree bark. You don't dare look down. Then the laughter begins. Not yours. Not the pirates. Dionysus. He laughs softly, almost kindly, like someone watching a child try to juggle eggs. The vines along the mast bloom suddenly, exploding with dark grapes so heavy they make the rigging groan. A rooster perches on the crow's nest and crows, not once, but 3 times, like it's making a point. You blink. There's a lion now, a real one. It steps out from behind a barrel, stretches like it owns the place, and lets out a lazy yawn that shows all its gleaming teeth. Someone shrieks. A sailor throws a coil of rope at it, as if that will help. The lion just gives him a look, one of those slow, unimpressed stares, and the man freezes in place. Eyes wide, chest heaving. You try to move, but your legs feel like you've just downed 3 amphorae of Dionysian red. The air pulses with scent, crushed figs, cinnamon bark, something floral and unsettling. And now there's a leopard too. It leaps lightly from the upper deck, lands silently, and curls its tail around the ankle of a man trying to climb into the rigging. He shrieks. You don't blame him. The big cat just smiles. If that's a thing leopards can do. And Dionysus? He's finally standing. His form seems to shimmer. For a second, you think you see him split into 3. Then 4. Then snap back into 1. His robe is different now, richer, more ornate. Gold embroidery shines on the hem, and his hair glows like it's lit from within. You glance down and realize he's standing barefoot in wine, but not wet. It parts for him, like it's obeying some ancient contract. The pirates are panicking. One tries to cut the ropes and lower the dinghy. It melts in his hands, yes. Melts. Another leaps into the sea, but stops halfway as his skin flashes silver. That's when it starts. It's almost gentle at first. A shimmer across the surface of the water. The man flailing in the sea lets out a gurgling cry as his arms twist unnaturally. His fingers fuse. His legs shrink, shorten, then snap back with a pop and a splash. And just like that, he's a dolphin. You're not kidding. A literal dolphin. Sleek, gray, confused, and still wearing the expression of a man who made a very poor career choice. More start to follow. One by one, they fall into the sea. Not jumping, not diving, they leap, mid-convulsion, into the air, and when they land, they're no longer men, they're dolphins, shimmering, panicked, oddly elegant dolphins. You stand there, soaking wet, wine up to your ankles, And watch as pirate after pirate is transformed. A man with tattoos on his neck goes first. Then the one who'd been carving fish into the mast. Then the guy who sang the terrible song earlier, who now, oddly enough, seems to be doing backflips in the waves. No blood, no screams now, just a sudden, bizarre serenity, as if nature, disturbed by human greed, is reasserting itself in the weirdest possible way. You glance at Dionysus. He looks pleased, not smug, not angry, just balanced, like this was how things were supposed to go all along. But two of you are still human. You, gripping the railing like it's going to carry you back to land. And the helmsman, who's now sitting cross-legged by the rudder, eyes closed, breathing slow and deep. The ship rocks gently. A dolphin leaps beside the hull. You think it might be the one who threw the grape stem earlier. It turns mid-air, gives a little flip, and splashes back into the wine-dark sea. The air starts to shift again. Softer, less heavy. The vines recede slightly. The lion curls up near the anchor chain like a sleepy housecat. The leopard stretches, flicks its tail, and vanishes, literally vanishes, in a soft puff of lavender smoke. Dionysus walks toward you. Each step is soundless, but the air ripples around him. He reaches out, gently takes your chin, and tilts your face upward. Still human, he murmurs. You nod, barely. He smiles. I like that. You try to ask why you were spared, what it means, what the lesson is, but your voice isn't working. Instead, Dionysus gestures toward the helmsman. He knew, he says. He warned them. That's enough. You want to say I didn't do anything. But maybe that's the point. Maybe not participating in cruelty is enough. Today, historians still argue whether Dionysus chose the spared ones or simply let fate do the sorting. Some say it was divine instinct. Others say random mercy. A few fringe theorists claim the dolphins still remember their old lives, especially the ones who swim in slow circles. Like they're still chasing gold that doesn't exist. You watch the god return to his perch, sit cross-legged again, and sip from his golden cup. The ship sails on, unnavigated, no sails, no wind, just wine, dolphins, and a god with too much time on his hands. You're not sure how long you've been drifting. Time on this ship has stopped obeying any laws you recognize. The sun hasn't moved. The sea hasn't changed. The dolphins keep circling, sometimes leaping playfully, sometimes staring up at you with unsettling familiarity, like they're trying to remember how mouths used to work. Dionysus hasn't said a word since the transformations. He just lounges there, sipping from his goblet like he's watching a slow-moving opera. The wine never runs out. You've been watching, carefully. That cup should have been empty 100 sips ago. You try not to stare at him. But it's hard. He glows. Literally glows. Not with light. Exactly, more like attention. Every time you look away, something pulls your gaze back to him. He's magnetic in the same way a thunderstorm is, beautiful, distant, and promising chaos. The helmsman, your one human companion, finally speaks. You know, he says softly. This happened before. You glance over. Other pirates? You ask. He nods. Different sea. Same mistake. You frown. Wait, so, this is a pattern? Dionysus doesn't forget. The helmsman replies. and begins winding a piece of rope through his fingers as if it'll anchor him to reality. He forgives. Maybe. But forgetting? No. That's your first mainstream historical fact of the day. Dionysus was not just the god of wine. He was the god of transformation, retribution, madness, theater, ecstasy, and depending on which city-state you ask, divine justice. Pirates weren't just stealing cargo. They were stealing fate, and Dionysus hated being stolen. Above you, a strange cloud drifts by. It's shaped like a goat. Not kidding. You blink, and it shifts shape, into a cluster of grapes. Then into a woman's face. Then dissolves into mist. The dolphins chirp at it. The helmsman chuckles. Now he's just showing off. Down on the deck, the vines are beginning to bloom again. Small white flowers open along the rigging, releasing a subtle perfume. You inhale and suddenly remember something you haven't thought about in years. A festival in your childhood village. Someone threw flowers into a bonfire. That's the scent. Smoke and sweetness and something sacred. You look at Dionysus again. What now? He raises one eyebrow, as if you should know. Then he finally speaks. We're going to Naxos. It's the first time he's mentioned a destination. You exchange a glance with the helmsman. Naxos? You repeat, isn't that where I met her? He interrupts, his voice low and fond. The only one who ever left me. Ariadne. Historians still argue whether Dionysus truly loved her, or whether he simply absorbed her into his myth the way vines consume trellises. Some say he found her weeping on the shore, abandoned by Theseus. Others believe she was never mortal at all, that she became divine through his love. Or his madness, or both. Either way, Naxos is holy to him. The ship responds to his words. You don't touch a single rope. But the vessel slowly turns. The sea parts obediently. A breeze picks up, finally, and the sails billow with it. Though no one has raised them. You're sailing without effort. You try to calculate the distance. But you realize you have no idea where you are. The stars are wrong. The sun's angle hasn't changed in hours. You glance at the horizon and realize it's closer than it should be. And shimmering, like a heat mirage. Then the music begins. Soft at first. Pipes, maybe flutes, somewhere in the distance, hidden in the folds of the wind. You're not sure if it's real or just in your head. But the helmsman hears it too. He nods along. Eyes half closed, like it's a tune from home. You look around and realize you're the only one asking questions. The dolphins leap in rhythm now, dancing along beside the ship like synchronized swimmers. You catch the eye of one, and you could swear he winks at you. Possibly the one who was carving a fish earlier. Then you notice your clothes. They've changed. Gone is the rough tunic and salt-stained cloak. Now you're dressed in something far more refined, flowing linen, dyed purple with golden stitching along the hem. Your feet are bare, but there's a soft anklet around one foot, humming faintly like it has a heartbeat of its own. You look over. The helmsman has changed too. He's dressed like a priest. And Dionysus? He hasn't changed a bit. But somehow, he looks even more divine now. If that's possible. Like every mile you travel toward Naxos feeds him. Is this real? You ask. Not sure who you're talking to. The helmsman shrugs. Does it matter? You think about that for a long time. The ship cuts across the water in silence. Save for the soft music. The splashing dolphins. and the occasional chirp from a parrot that definitely wasn't on board earlier. Or ever. A thought drifts through your mind like a leaf on a pond. What if we're not sailing through sea at all? What if this is myth space now? And in myth space, logic drowns. You sit on the deck, watching the dolphins, remembering their human faces. You wonder what it feels like to breathe seawater, to remember your life in fragments, to know that your voice will never form words again. But maybe they're happier, maybe they're free. You drift into a sort of trance, lulled by motion and wine-thick air. Somewhere in your half-sleep, you hear Dionysus whisper something in a language older than Greek. It curls around you like smoke. The sea answers, not in words, but in a shifting color. A bloom of deep indigo spreads out beneath the ship. A trail, a blessing, or maybe a warning. Then you see it, a glimmer on the horizon, a shape, an island, and something is waiting there. You see it before you understand it. Naxos doesn't rise from the sea, it emerges. Like a dream shifting into focus. Cliffs, carved by centuries of wind and salt, tower above turquoise waters. Olive trees spill down the hillsides like green fire. White buildings cling to the stone, their edges soft with age and heat. The whole island hums with a quiet pulse. You feel it in your chest before your eyes confirm it. The ship glides toward the shore without slowing. No anchor, no crew, no hesitation, just a divine sense of arrival. Like the island's been expecting you. Dionysus stands. No command, no speech. He simply stands. And the ship drifts up to the dock, if you can call it that. It's more of a landing carved into rock, ringed by flowering vines and thick with the scent of thyme and honey. Butterflies scatter as the ship brushes against stone with a gentle sigh. Dionysus steps off first. You follow. The helmsman doesn't move. He's still seated at the rudder, smiling softly, as if his journey ends here. Or maybe he's waiting for another ship. Another lesson. You're not sure. You step onto Naxos. The stone beneath your feet is warm. Not hot. Warm like it remembers sunlight. Your sandals, when did those appear? Make soft, rhythmic taps as you follow Dionysus along a winding path up the hill. And that's when it hits you. You've seen this place before. Not in person, in paintings, frescoes, maybe a museum. The curve of the hill, the sun-bleached staircases, the shrine at the top. Historians still argue whether this part of Naxos was a sacred Dionysian site or a late addition to the cult complex. Either way, it's here, and it feels older than time. Birdsong trickles down from olive branches. Dionysus walks barefoot, not even noticing the gravel. His robe has changed again, shorter now. Easier for movement. Dyed the deep red of fermented pomegranates. A crown of ivy sits atop his curls, humming faintly with power. You notice little details. The faint scars on his arms. The way his eyes shift color in the sunlight. From gold to storm cloud gray. Then you hear the singing. Female voices. Dozens, maybe hundreds. They echo through the trees, harmonizing like they've been rehearsing for centuries. The lyrics are in an ancient dialect you don't recognize, probably a Thracian Greek hybrid. But the feel is unmistakable: devotion, longing, joy, sorrow, all braided into one. Maenads. You've heard of them. Dionysus's followers, priestesses of ecstatic worship, sometimes philosophers, sometimes destroyers, Fringe scholars believe the Maenads existed in waves, cycling through history like migratory spirits. One even claimed they appear today in mosh pits and protest marches. You crest the hill, and there they are, women of every shape and age, swirling in circles, arms raised, hair flowing, each one with her own rhythm and fury. Some wear animal skins, others are crowned with pine cones and grape leaves. One woman, barefoot, eyes like stormlight, locks eyes with you and smiles in a way that is not comforting. Dionysus walks straight into their dance, and they part for him, like waves for a returning tide. Not a single beat is missed. The music folds around him, accepts him, rejoices. You stop at the edge, unsure what comes next. Then someone takes your hand. A Maenad, young, maybe your age. Her palm is calloused but warm. She smells like smoke and crushed mint. Without a word, she pulls you into the spiral. You try to resist, at first, but the music grabs you. Your feet start moving, your heartbeat sinks, you lose track of time again. And then, just like that, it stops. Everyone freezes mid-motion. You find yourself standing next to Dionysus at the center of the clearing. The Maenads form a circle around you. A silence falls so heavy you can feel it pressing into your chest. Dionysus raises his goblet, and all the vines in the grove curl toward it like they're listening. He speaks, not to you, not to them, but to the air itself. She was abandoned here, but she bloomed. The Maenads respond in a single, unified voice. She bloomed. Then Dionysus turns to you. She was mortal, he says softly, but she became more. A spotlight of sun cuts through the trees and lands on a flat stone altar in the center of the clearing. On it lies a single golden crown, shaped like twisted vines. Ariadne, he says. You step forward, drawn by a force you don't understand. The crown thrums with potential, but you don't pick it up. You're not sure it's yours to touch. Dionysus nods, approvingly. She left her mark, so must you. You glance at the Maenads. Every eye is on you. Not in judgment, but in anticipation. As if they know what's coming next. Even if you don't, you feel your limbs loosen. Your voice return. Why bring me here? You ask. Dionysus tilts his head, almost surprised. Because the dolphins need someone to remember. You blink. They remember being human? Not clearly, he says, but memory leaves ripples, and the sea is full of ripples. You stare down the hill at the ocean beyond. The water shimmers, dolphins still leaping. You swear you can hear laughter. So maybe it's not punishment after all. Maybe it's mercy. A bizarre, divine, inconveniently symbolic kind of mercy. A reset. A transformation. Fringe theorists call it mythic remediation, where bad decisions aren't just punished. They're recycled into something beautiful. Historians still argue whether Dionysus's dolphins were ever meant as a warning or a celebration of change. You're leaning toward the latter. The wind shifts. The Maenads start singing again. Softer now. A lullaby instead of a war cry. The crown stays on the altar. The sunlight fades slightly. Dionysus sits, cross-legged, and starts humming to himself. No commands, no speeches. Just the island, the sound of waves, the memory of transformation hanging in the air like smoke after a bonfire. You breathe in, and, for the first time, understand what it means to be part of myth. You wake up somewhere between olive branches and moonlight. Not that you remember falling asleep, but here you are, stretched out on a woven mat beneath a fig tree. Your purple robes are still spotless. The crown of vines still sits untouched on the altar. The Maenads are gone, so is Dionysus. The silence feels holy. Even the insects whisper. You sit up slowly, half expecting to find a note, a trail, a message carved into stone. But there's nothing. The air smells like roasted almonds and great must. Somewhere nearby, someone is cooking over a fire. You follow the scent without thinking, drifting down a narrow path lined with clay lanterns. They flicker faintly in the soft wind, casting golden ripples on the stone. And then, suddenly, you're back at the shoreline. The dolphins are still there, still dancing in the surf, still watching you, still waiting. But there's something else on the beach now. A man. You squint. Not Dionysus. Older, tall, wrapped in a rough wool cloak the color of ash. His back is to you as he draws something in the sand with a driftwood stick. You approach. He doesn't look up. What are you doing? You ask. Before realizing how strange it is to speak out loud here. Plotting, he says, scratching lines into the sand. This is where it began. And ended. You step closer. The diagram is a crude map. The Aegean, a cluster of islands, and marked among them, with little circles and spirals, are places you recognize: Naxos, Delos, Paros, and something called Caliste. You frown. Caliste? The man finally looks up. His eyes are sharp, almost amused. That's what they used to call it. Before it burned, before it sank. You're not sure what to say. Then he grins. Don't worry, that's not this story, but it's always around the corner. And just like that, he stands, brushes the sand from his knees, and walks straight into the sea. You stare after him, stunned. No splash, no resistance. He just dissolves into the water like ink. You're starting to realize something. This isn't a story with clean chapters. It's a knot, a wine-soaked knot of memory, myth, and meaning, and you're tangled in it now. You turn to the dolphins. They've gathered closer. One of them rises out of the water just enough to reveal a marking along its side. You take a step forward, squinting. It's a tattoo. An anchor. Not painted, not decorative, inked, just like a sailor might do to mark their allegiance, their home port, their regret. You gasp. Another dolphin surfaces, revealing a faded scar across its fin. A third has a small gold hoop through what must have once been an earlobe. These aren't just symbols. These are memories. They're still carrying them. You walk into the surf. Just enough for the water to lap at your ankles. A dolphin nudges closer and chirps. Then it dives. A moment later, it surfaces with something in its mouth. It drops it at your feet. A wooden toy. Carved, worn smooth by time and tide. A horse. You pick it up, heart pounding. This is not a metaphor. This is a gift. The dolphin watches you expectantly. And you finally get it. They remember. Not everything. Not names or dates or faces. But feelings. The scent of figs on the wind. The weight of a carved horse in a child's hand. The shame, the wonder, the regret. They are not empty. They are transformed. You sit down in the shallow water. The toy still in your hands. The waves don't pull you. They rock you, gently, like a cradle. And for the first time since this journey began, you cry. Not loud, Not messy. Just a steady stream of salt and memory and relief. Because now you understand what Dionysus did, not just to them, but for them. He didn't punish. He reset. There's a strange comfort in that. Knowing your mistakes don't end you. That you can be remade into something strange and beautiful and free. You stay there until the sun starts to rise. Really rise this time. Not frozen in myth space. The dolphins gradually drift away, heading out to sea, one by one. The last to leave is the one with the tattoo. He looks back once, then vanishes beneath the waves. You're alone again, but you don't feel lonely. Behind you, the island is waking up. Birds sing. The breeze returns. Somewhere up the hill, the Maenads are probably gathering grapes or pressing flowers or laughing around a fire. And Dionysus? You don't know, but you'll see him again. He always comes back. As you walk back to the shore, you notice your shadow has changed shape slightly. Longer, more graceful. It flickers like there are vines just beneath your skin. Growing quietly. Waiting. You smile. Somewhere out there, other dolphins are dancing, and the sea is full of stories still waiting to be told. You don't expect to see the ship again. After all, ships don't usually wait for passengers who wade into myth and chat with dolphins. But there it is, rocking gently in the shallows. Ropes trailing lazily in the surf. Sails neatly folded like a swan asleep on a pond. And it's empty. No crew. No Dionysus. No helmsman with a cryptic smile. Just waiting. You pause on the beach. One hand resting on a sun-warmed boulder. Behind you, Naxos stretches upward in terraces of white stone and olive leaves. Ahead, the sea glitters like a spilled pouch of coins. And above, the sky is that impossibly rich Aegean blue, half sky, half story. You step onto the boat. It doesn't rock. It adjusts, like it recognizes your weight, your purpose. You settle onto the bench where Dionysus once sat, running your hand along the smooth wood. Worn down by centuries of divine behinds and questionable decisions. The toy horse is still in your pocket. You hold it in your lap now. Just a chunk of wood. Really, but it's heavy with meaning, like a souvenir from a dream you haven't fully woken from. The sail unfurls on its own. A breeze stirs, gentle but insistent. The boat turns away from Naxos and glides toward open water. Its wake a quiet whisper of farewell. You watch the island recede. The hills blur into the horizon. The dolphins are gone, and that's when you hear it. Laughter. Low, warm, amused. You turn. Dionysus is sitting behind you. Legs crossed. Drinking from that same vine-carved goblet. His robe is now a shimmering green. The color of moss after rain. His hair has grown longer. You swear he wasn't there a second ago. Miss me? He asks. Raising a brow. You roll your eyes. Did you ever leave? He grins. Define, leave. And that's about as much clarity as you'll get. He gestures toward the sea. Where to next? You hesitate. There's more? He gives a mock gasp. More? Oh sweet mortal. We haven't even started. I've got pirates to prank. Cities to intoxicate. Entire empires to throw off balance. I once convinced a Roman general that a goat was a god. You squint at him. That happened? Historians still argue whether it was a goat, a donkey, or a really hairy philosopher. But yes, you try to picture it. Fail. Smile anyway. Then Dionysus sobers. Just a little. His voice lowers. But first, there's a story I need you to carry forward. You nod. The dolphins. No, he says gently. You tilt your head. He leans in, voice barely above a whisper. You think this is about pirates and punishment. But it's about transformation. You can't keep sailing the same sea after you've seen it change people. You can't unknow the magic. You open your mouth to speak. But he cuts you off with a finger to your lips. And before you ask, no. This isn't some divine contract or soul for service nonsense. There's no blood price. No ancient curse. You're just different now. Like grapes after fermentation. You glance at the goblet. Is that wine? He shrugs. Mostly. You don't ask what the other part is. The wind picks up. The boat turns northward. The water darkens, deepens. You notice strange shapes moving beneath the surface. Not dolphins. Larger. Slower. Watching. Dionysus lifts his goblet in salute. Hello, old friends. You raise a brow. Not everyone who crosses me becomes a dolphin. He says with a wink. Some turn into something much worse. You chuckle nervously. But he's not joking. The shapes slip away. The boat keeps moving. And you start to feel it again. That curious pull in your chest. The thread tugging you forward. It's not unpleasant. It's just there. Like gravity. Or fate. Or a really persistent Spotify algorithm. Dionysus starts humming. The same tune the Maenads sang on Naxos. You hum along before you realize it. It feels right. Suddenly he turns serious again. You know what the pirates feared most? You shake your head. Not death. Not pain. Not even me. They feared being forgotten. That all their swagger and bravado would vanish beneath the waves. With nothing left but barnacles and rumors. You nod slowly. And yet, he adds, they weren't forgotten. Not completely. Because someone remembered their transformation. You blink. He's talking about you. I'm not special. You mumble. He shrugs. Neither were they. But stories make you special. Memory makes you real. You watch the horizon. Distant shapes rise from the sea. Other islands. Other stories. You ask, almost in a whisper, why me? He takes a long sip of wine. Because you asked. And because you listened. That's rarer than you think. A single gull cries overhead. The wind shifts. The sail tightens. The boat surges forward. You lean back, letting the sun warm your face. The toy horse is still in your lap. You grip it gently, like an anchor that keeps your feet on the floor of myth. Somewhere out there, someone else is about to mess up royally. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be there when they do. You don't remember falling asleep on the boat. But when you wake, everything smells like pine resin and sea salt. And the sails above your head have gone slack in the still morning air. The boat has drifted into a narrow inlet surrounded by jagged cliffs. Like teeth rising from the waterline. All shadow and shimmer. And you're alone again. Sort of. You sit up, rubbing your eyes. And notice footprints in the boat. Bare feet. Small. Multiple sets. None of them yours. They begin near the bow. Circle the mast. And vanish near a cluster of grape leaves someone, probably Dionysus, casually left trailing over the tiller like garland. You sigh. Wherever he's gone, he's left you with the mystery. But the boat isn't anchored. It's simply hovering, as if waiting for permission to move again. The water around it is impossibly clear. Beneath, you see sea stars clinging to coral. schools of fish darting like thoughts. And then, on the cliff above, a shout. You look up. Two young men are climbing down the rocks with absolutely zero respect for gravity or basic common sense. One of them is laughing. The other is trying to carry a wineskin while balancing a wooden lyre on his back. They do not look like pirates. They look like trouble. You wave cautiously. They wave back like you're an old friend, born into this exact moment for this exact meeting. Within minutes, they leap from a rock into the water, climb aboard without asking, and sprawl on the deck like sea otters who've read too much Homer. The lyre lands in your lap. Hold that, one of them says. You're about to witness inspiration. You glance at the strings. A few are missing. One's made of braided horsehair. Another looks like it was restrung with fishing line. This is going to be something. The musician, the talkative one, adjusts his belt, stands up unsteadily, and raises a hand to the sky like he's addressing Zeus himself. O sea, O sky, O wine dark mystery, let the tale of the dolphin men be sung anew. You exchange a glance with the quieter one, who shrugs. He saw dolphins once, never recovered. The first strums the lyre with painful confidence. It sounds like a goat coughing into a bucket. But the words that follow, well, there's something else. He begins to sing. And even though the notes wobble and the rhymes feel like they were patched together by a sleep-deprived poet with a thesaurus addiction, the heart of the story is there. Men on a ship, a god in disguise, hubris, transformation, a splash, silence, and then, joy. The dolphins, he sings, were not just changed, they were freed. Taken from one prison and reborn into the vast cathedral of the sea. No longer pirates, just spirits in motion. You sit back, stunned, because even in its clumsiness, this song knows, it remembers, and it confirms something Dionysus said earlier: stories make people special. Stories preserve what shame tries to erase. As the song trails off, the musician collapses dramatically into your lap. So, he pants, did I do it justice? You nod slowly. You did something. He grins. I'll take that. The other one finally speaks. There's a legend, he says softly, that one of those dolphins came back. Not in body. In dream. Whispered to a fisherman in his sleep. Said he remembered the sky. The sails. Said he missed the weight of things. You blink. The weight? He nods. Dolphins are free. But they don't carry. They don't own. They don't hold onto regrets. You think about that for a long moment. Then ask, which is better? The musician shrugs. Depends on who you ask. Some people crave freedom. Others crave the burden of meaning. You watch the inlet. Quiet now. The cliffs hold their shadows. The water laps gently against the hull. And you realize something chilling. The pirates, those men who laughed and jeered and planned to sell a disguised god into slavery, were not just punished. They were spared. From themselves. From the uglier roads their lives might have taken. From futures where their names were forgotten. Dionysus didn't curse them. He edited them. Gave them one last scene. A better form. A simpler truth. And maybe, just maybe, that's why dolphins still approach ships today. Not out of habit, but out of hope, recognition, memory. You hand the lyre back. The boat shifts again, quietly. Like it's been listening too. The two travelers don't seem surprised. They gather their things, leap into the water, and swim off toward a narrow strip of beach tucked behind the rocks. Before vanishing, the talkative one calls back, "Write your own verse. We're just the chorus." You smile. And as the boat pulls away from the cove, you glance up at the sky. High above, gulls circle like lazy punctuation marks on a poem the sea keeps writing over and over. Far behind you, Naxos is out of sight. Far ahead, something else calls. Not disaster. Not triumph. Just possibility. You're starting to understand that the journey won't end. Not in the way you thought. There's no neat destination, no final, and then, that ties it all up with a mythological bow. Instead, this voyage with Dionysus feels more like a spiral. Or a loop. A dance where every step reveals some new ripple. Some half-buried truth that was always there. And now, you sail into fog. Thick, cotton-soft mist rolls in from the west, swallowing the horizon. The sun above is just a faint coin behind layers of cloud. And the sea becomes ghostly, no waves. No birds. No wind. Just silence and you, adrift on the smooth glass of a forgotten morning. Dionysus appears beside you again. Silent for once. His robes are different, thicker, draped like winter. His skin seems paler, like moonlight. He watches the fog without blinking. You ask, "What is this place?" "A memory," he murmurs, "but not yours." The boat glides into the whiteness like it's skating across history. Slowly, through the veil, shapes begin to form. Ruins rising from the sea. Pillars broken off mid-sentence. Statues half swallowed by salt. An amphora, cracked but upright, perched on a ledge of coral as if someone placed it there only yesterday. This isn't just the past. It's what the past forgets. And Dionysus, god of wine and madness and masks, walks you through it like a tour guide with a secret grudge against museums. "These," he says, gesturing to the ruins, "are the stories that didn't survive. The versions no one sang. The truth's too strange to keep." You step carefully between columns jutting up from the shallows. The boat floats beside you now, moving when you move, like it's tethered to your breath. You reach a statue, a sailor. Maybe. His face is serene, his arms open wide as if in greeting or surrender. His eyes are worn smooth by centuries of salt. Dionysus whispers, "That one swam back." You glance at him. "From dolphin form?" you ask. He nods. Not everyone stays what they become. Transformation isn't always permanent. Some people fight it. Some forget. Some remember so hard, they bend the world backward. He pauses. Historians still argue whether any of them actually made it. You touch the statue's hand. It's cold, but steady. And then, drifting through the fog like a lullaby from another life, you hear it, chanting. Low, haunting, familiar. It's the Maenads. Their song carries over the water like a wind that doesn't touch your skin but shakes your chest anyway. You can't tell the words, if there are words, but the melody dances around your ribs like warm honey and old grief. Dionysus listens, eyes closed. They sang for every soul who changed. He says, and for everyone who didn't. You ask, which are we? He opens his eyes and smiles. We're still deciding. The boat turns of its own accord and begins to pull away from the ruins. As you return to the deck, you notice something new. Carvings along the railing. Names. Dozens. Some ancient, etched in Greek, others modern. In every language you can name, and a few you can't. You run your fingers along them. Passengers. Dionysus explains. Every person who's ever walked this myth. Even just once. Everyone who dreamed themselves into the tale. You find your own name. Freshly etched at the edge of the wood. Not deep, but firm. It glows faintly. You sit beside it, quietly. And for a while, no one speaks. The fog begins to thin. Burned away by a sun you forgot was up there. The ruins vanish behind a curtain of mist and memory. The sea brightens to blue again. The boat finds wind. Dionysus sighs and stretches like a cat. Phew, that was heavy. You laugh. You brought me there. Of course, he says. What fun is a party if no one remembers what they danced through? You shake your head. You're a strange god. He beams. The strange god. And then, with a twinkle in his eye, you want to know the real reason I turned them into dolphins? You lean in. Because dolphins, he whispers, are funny. You blink. Think about it. No one can stay mad at a dolphin. They're like floating comedians. Imagine trying to give a moral speech while one's grinning at you with that dumb bottle nose and clicking noises. You try not to laugh. Fail. Also, he adds, pirates are deeply insecure. I gave them the one form where no one would ever take them seriously again. It was a mercy and a prank. Classic me. You're still giggling when he adds, more softly. But mostly, I did it because they didn't see me. What do you mean? They saw a boy, a prize, a trick, but not me. And when people refuse to see the divine, sometimes you have to wake them. Force their eyes open, even if it means changing them into something new. He pauses. You saw me. You look at him. Did I? You didn't run, he says simply. And that, it seems, is enough. The boat coasts now. You spot land ahead, low cliffs. Vineyards. The suggestion of people and stories still forming. Another island. Another chapter. You could disembark. But for now, you stay. The sail flutters gently. The carvings along the rail catch the light. And somewhere below, just for a second, a dolphin leaps. By now, you've stopped pretending that any of this is normal. The boat, the dolphins, the ever-shifting God beside you. All of it has nudged you so far beyond logic that you don't even look for explanations anymore. You expect the impossible, which is why you barely flinch when Dionysus turns into a tree. Not forever. Just for an hour or two. One moment he's telling you about the temple priests of Eleutherae. Did you know they once mistook a wandering drunk for Dionysus and built an entire shrine around him? And the next, he's rooted to the deck, arms stretching into leafy branches, bark rippling up his legs like ivy with ambition. You stare. He rustles. Why? You ask. Photosynthesis. He answers, though you swear his mouth doesn't move. Fair enough. You sit beside him, well, beside the trunk he's become, and hum softly as the boat continues its drift through the late afternoon light. The sun flickers through his leaves, casting dancing shadows that feel like old lullabies on your skin. It's peaceful, strangely so. Which, of course, means something is about to happen. A sharp cry rings out across the water, a human voice. Urgent, scared, you bolt upright. On the horizon, a smaller boat rocks violently. It's overpacked, unbalanced. You count at least 10 passengers. Some waving cloth, some bailing water. A makeshift sail flaps like a wounded bird. They're heading straight for a cluster of black rocks just beneath the surface. You look at Dionysus' tree. He drops a leaf in response. You take that as permission. Within moments, your boat responds, tilting gently, then turning with precision a modern yacht would envy. The wind shifts. The sail catches. You race toward the floundering vessel like a mythic coast guard on vacation. As you close the distance, you see the passengers more clearly, refugees. Maybe. Or pilgrims. Exhausted. Sunburned. Eyes wide with that quiet hope that always seems one gust of wind away from breaking. You shout. Wave your arms. Signal for them to follow your lead. They see you. Miraculously, they shift their course just enough to avoid disaster. Their boat scrapes past the hidden rocks with inches to spare. As you pass alongside, they call out thanks in several languages, Greek, Arabic, maybe even something older. You wave back, heart pounding. Dionysus, now returned to human form, with a laurel twig still stuck in his hair, claps you on the back. Well done, mortal, he says. You didn't even need divine intervention for that one. You exhale slowly. They would have died. Maybe. He shrugs. Maybe not. But you acted. You remembered that this isn't just a story about me. It's about how you carry it. You frown. Carry what? He taps your chest. The knowledge that anyone, pirate, priest, passerby, can be rewritten. That mercy sometimes wears strange faces. That the world is always listening. You look back at the boat of strangers as it grows smaller behind you. Historians still argue. Dionysus says thoughtfully, whether that original pirate crew was truly evil, or just ordinary men in a desperate moment. You nod slowly, and you turned them into dolphins. Because dolphins don't stab people for wine. He grins. Usually. Another long pause. Then, there are people today who still believe dolphins carry human souls. That when they click and chatter near boats, they're trying to communicate, trying to be recognized. Like ghosts. You murmur. Like mirrors. He corrects. The boat coasts again. You pass a buoy covered in barnacles. A sea turtle paddles by with all the urgency of a napping librarian. Somewhere, a gull argues with itself. And you begin to wonder. How many other gods walk the world unnoticed? How many transformations happen in silence? Never recorded, never sung? What if the real myths aren't the ones in the books, but the quiet shifts in people that no one sees? Dionysus sees you thinking. He pours you a glass of wine, not from any visible bottle, of course. Just a chalice conjured from the salt air, and hands it over. To the stories that never got written. He says. You toast quietly. The wine tastes like summer afternoons and forgiven mistakes. You watch the horizon for a long time. And you start to get it. The story of the pirates, of men turned into dolphins, isn't really about punishment. Or fear. Or even justice. It's about change. Forced. Yes. But also, freeing. They were trapped in a role. Aggressors. Villains. Thieves. And Dionysus shattered it. Not with fire or sword. But with form. He turned them into something that could never steal again. Something soft. Swift. Joyful. He didn't destroy them. He liberated them from themselves. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most divine act of all. The boat begins to slow again. Land appears, lush, green, quiet, no temples, no cheering crowds, Just a quiet cove with flowers blooming where the cliffs kiss the sand. A new island. You don't ask the name. You just know. The journey goes on. You don't step off the boat. Not yet. Even as it kisses the shoreline of that quiet green island, soft grass waving. Trees leaning as if to greet you, you stay. Not because you're afraid. Exactly. Just, you're not done. Dionysus doesn't press you. He just lounges on the railing, sipping something golden and fizzing gently. Legs dangling like a kid at summer camp. He watches the island and says, "That one's for rest." Not all stories need climax and collapse. Some just need breathing room. You nod, but the pull of the myth tugs at your chest. You're still thinking about the pirates. Those terrified men who made one desperate decision and found themselves rewritten by a god. It still doesn't sit perfectly. Not unfair. Exactly. But uneasy. You're still turning it over. Dionysus says, not looking at you. Good. You frown. Were they bad men? He shrugs. Historians still argue whether piracy in that era was always immoral or sometimes just economic desperation. But you're asking the wrong question. What's the right one? Why did I care? That throws you. You blink. You mean, why didn't you just let them go? He nods. I wasn't being mugged. I could have disappeared, changed into a breeze, turned the boat into a goat. Whatever. But I chose a spectacle. Because you were angry? No, because I wanted them to see. He lets that hang in the air. And now you see something you hadn't noticed before. Behind his ever-smiling eyes. Behind the drunken joy and vine-slicked theatrics, there's grief. A tiredness older than marble. People don't see the gods anymore. He says quietly. Not really. They tell our stories like bedtime fables. Safe. Small. But when I walked onto that boat, I was asking a question. Which was, can you tell what's sacred when it's standing right in front of you? The wind picks up. The grass on the island ripples like water. Somewhere, a flute plays, but it's faint. Like it's coming from inside your chest. Dionysus continues. They failed that test. Spectacularly. So I failed them back. But I didn't destroy them. I gave them a form where they'd be remembered. And happy. If they chose. You consider that. You're saying you gave them a gift. I gave them an option. Whether they took it as a curse or a release. That was always up to them. Another pause. Like you. He adds. Your breath catches. What do you mean? Like me? He finally looks at you. His eyes aren't human. Not entirely. They hold too many suns. Too many endings. But there's no threat in them, only invitation. You keep choosing to stay in this myth. You could have woken up a dozen times by now. Walked away. Turned the page. But you didn't. You glance toward the water. It reflects your face, but with subtle differences. The tilt of your mouth. The way your eyes seem more ancient than they should. You whisper, "Am I changing?" You already have, he says. You remember the names carved into the railing. Yours is still there, but fainter now. Like it's drifting into something else. You run your fingers over it. It pulses. Just once. Like a heartbeat. The boat shifts. The island slips behind you without a sound. You don't know where you're headed next. But you feel it deep in your bones. The story is circling inward now. No more wide oceans. No more scattered questions. You're heading toward the heart of something. Dionysus clinks his glass against yours. Even though you don't remember holding one. Here's to metamorphosis, he says, with that sly grin. May it never ask for permission. You sip. It tastes like starlight and old promises. He leans back, eyes closed. Once, he murmurs, a king of Thrace tried to ban my worship. He claimed I was just an excuse for chaos. That wine made men beasts. That women who followed me lost themselves. You raise an eyebrow, didn't they? They found themselves. He snaps, sitting up. He saw only the surface. The frenzy. But behind it? Freedom. From roles. From rules. From the weight of control. My rights weren't about losing your mind. They were about claiming your own. Sounds dangerous. He smiles. Only to tyrants. A seabird wheels overhead. A school of fish jumps in unison like a skipping heartbeat. The boat moves without direction. Yet always toward something. You begin to sense it. The edge. Not of land. Of story. You ready? Dionysus asks. Quieter now. You're not sure. But you nod anyway. And somewhere, in the deep, something answers. You don't remember falling asleep. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe the rocking of the boat. Maybe the way Dionysus started humming. A tune that doesn't use notes so much as moods. But you wake. And it's night. A thick, moonless night. The kind where even the stars feel like they're whispering too quietly to be seen. You sit up slowly. The boat has stopped. Not anchored, just paused. In water so calm it might as well be glass. Dionysus isn't there. Instead, there's a circle of torches floating in the water. 12 of them, perfectly still, flickering without wind. Inside the ring, nothing but black. You stand, and the boat tilts forward. Not violently, just insistently. Like it's urging you to step off. So you do. And the water holds you. It should be cold. It isn't. Should be wet. It isn't that, either. Walking across it feels like moving through a dream made of memory. Every step hums with echoes you can't quite place. Then, as you reach the center of the torch ring, the world exhales. The water drops away. Suddenly, you're standing on polished black stone, a platform suspended in nothingness. No sky, no sea, no sounds, just you and Dionysus. He's wearing a robe now. Long, embroidered, dark purple with silver threading. A crown of ivy rests gently in his curls. He looks different, not younger, not older, just more complete. I don't often show this face. He says, too many people prefer the party. You don't speak, because you know, whatever's happening now. It isn't play. This is ceremony. You've come far, he says softly, from a rocking ship full of fools to this place between breaths. You swallow. Why me? He smiles, not slyly this time, but kindly, because you asked the right questions. You stayed. You noticed. From the shadows, 12 figures emerge, all different. One wears pirate's rags. One wears scholar's robes. One carries a clay jug. Another a child. They form a circle around you. Their faces shimmer, sometimes human, sometimes dolphin. These are the echoes of the first crew. Dionysus says, before the myth, before the poetry, what they became, what they were, and everything in between. You look at them. Some meet your gaze. Some just listen. This, Dionysus continues, is the heart of the story. Not revenge, not punishment, but witness. The pirate steps forward. His eyes are tired. He carries something in his hands, a piece of rope, frayed and stained with salt. He asks for you to carry his memory. Dionysus says, "You take the rope." It hums. The scholar steps forward. She offers a page torn from an ancient book, writing faded. Almost lost. She asks that you question more gently. The child offers a wooden dolphin toy, chipped and smoothed by time. He wants you to play more. Each figure gives you something. A bone flute, a lock of hair, a cracked wine cup. You don't know how you hold them all. But you do. And then Dionysus places a final object in your hands, a mask. Half gold, half bark, smiling, but only just. "This," he says, "is yours now." You stare at it. "What am I supposed to do with it?" "Tell the story," he says simply. "Not just mine. Theirs. Yours. Everyone's." You almost laugh. "Is that all?" He grins. "Well, also, avoid biting politicians. That tends to ruin the effect." The torches flare once, then fade. The platform melts back into water. You're on the boat again. Everything's quiet. Dionysus reclines on a cushion, wine in hand, like nothing happened. But you're holding the mask. It's real. Historians still argue. He says casually, whether my cult was ever real, or just symbolic, whether I was a god or an idea. You smile. "Does it matter?" He toasts you. "Not anymore." The stars return, one by one. A dolphin leaps alongside the boat, just once. Just high enough to catch starlight. And something deep inside you settles. You are still you, but changed. Not like them, not entirely, but changed enough to understand why a god would turn men into dolphins. And why he'd trust you to remember. You're still holding the mask. Not tightly, not protectively, just gently. Like it belongs there. Like it always did. The boat resumes its quiet voyage, skimming across water so still it might be a reflection of nothing. Dionysus lies with his hands behind his head, bare feet resting on a barrel of wine, and hums something that doesn't have a tune but makes your chest ache anyway. You glance over at him. "I've been wondering," you say, "why dolphins?" He doesn't open his eyes. "You think I should have turned them into frogs?" You shrug. "I mean, wings might have been flashier. Fire-breathing horses. Scorpions with tridents. You are a god." His grin widens lazily. "I'm also the god of joy. Of return. Of wine. Yes, but also of release. Frogs don't laugh. Scorpions don't sing. You consider that. They were lost." He continues. "Off course. Panicked. So I turned them into something that always finds its way back." Back to where? To breath. To depth. To play. Dolphins don't build cities. They don't stab each other over dinner tables. But they remember. They dream. They help. They sing. You blink. "Wait, dolphins sing?" Mainstream historical fact. He nods, finally opening one eye. They communicate with signature whistles. Some can even recognize themselves in mirrors. Maybe better than humans do. That last part lands harder than expected. You look out at the sea. A small pod of dolphins swims alongside the boat now, peaceful. Close. One spins in the air just because. Another bobs its head as if it hears something you don't. Historians still argue. Dionysus adds, whether those dolphins are literal transformations from my myth, or if the story is a metaphor for rescue. For freedom. You nod slowly. "What do you think?" "I think stories leak into the world," he says, voice softer. "And sometimes, if they're powerful enough, they leave footprints. Or fin prints. In this case, you laugh gently. It's a sound that doesn't feel borrowed anymore. The mask in your hand hums faintly. You bring it up to eye level, inspecting the smooth edge where gold meets bark. There's something about the texture, it's alive, but ancient. A little forest, a little firelight. What happens if I wear it? He shrugs. You speak truth, or lies that feel like truth, or truths so strange they sound like lies. It's different every time. You hesitate. Will it change me? It'll reveal you. Same difference. Really. You don't put it on. Not yet, but you understand it now. This story, his story, isn't just about transformation. It's about permission, to become, to remember, to return to something older than fear. You walk to the edge of the boat. The dolphins are gone now. Just sea, just stars. Then you feel the boat shift again, just slightly. You turn. Dionysus isn't on the deck. Only the ivy crown remains, resting exactly where his head had been. You approach it, touch it. It's real, cool and damp, like morning leaves. You lift it, unsure. And underneath it, the deck is carved with a word, in a language you don't recognize. But somehow, you do know it. It means, yours. You exhale. Not because anything is finished, but because something has landed. The mask, the crown, the memory, the pirates who became more than thieves, the god who became more than myth, and you, who became more than a listener. You sit again, not out of exhaustion, just reverence. The boat glides forward, but you don't need to know where it's headed. For the first time, you don't need to know. Instead, you whisper to the sea, I see you. And for a moment, the waves answer, not with words, with warmth, as if something old is glad you're still awake. You rise with the dawn. Not because the sun wakes you, but because the boat slows again. Gently, reverently, like it's approaching something sacred. A mist rolls across the surface of the sea, thick and silver, glowing with the first light of morning. There's no land in sight. But something's near. You step toward the bow. The mask in your left hand. The ivy crown still tucked behind your belt. The air has changed, heavier somehow. Like it's filled with incense and old hymns. Somewhere in the fog, you hear bells. Not church bells. Not temple bells. These ring irregularly, like wind chimes carved from bones and seashells. Moved by breath, not breeze. You are no longer a guest in this myth. You are part of it. A shape appears in the mist ahead, tall, wide, vaguely human. You blink, but it doesn't vanish. It solidifies. Not a statue, not a god, a ship, but not like any you've seen before. Its hull is made of intertwined vines and bones, lashed with ropes made from braided hair and golden thread. Its sails are translucent, catching light from nowhere, and they shimmer with images, flickering scenes from stories long forgotten. You see a lion crowned with stars, a woman dancing in the flames, a boy speaking to snakes, a dolphin leaping into the sky. And then, a moment later, you, right there on the sail, holding a mask, looking out over water that reflects 100 versions of yourself. This ship is memory-made vessel. A voice drifts from its deck. It isn't Dionysus. It's older, slower, a woman's voice, low and endless. Do you carry the name? You don't speak. Instead, you raise the mask in answer. The voice sighs, almost smiling. Then enter. The boats drift together without touching. You step across nothing, water. Mist, breath, and you are aboard the second ship. The deck smells of moss and ink. The crew wears robes stitched from paper. Every inch of their bodies covered in writing, scraps of myth. Half-remembered poems. Letters from lovers no one else believes existed. One nods to you and whispers, "Keeper." The others repeat it, "Keeper. Keeper." And then silence. You are led below deck, not downstairs. But down light. Shafts of it pull you inward. Until you stand in a chamber carved from silence itself. There, seated on a throne of driftwood and feathers, is her. You don't know her name. But she is the archivist. The chronicler. The dreamer who makes sure stories don't die when their tellers do. Her eyes are pale and bottomless. Her voice is moss on marble. You've heard the tale, she says. Now what will you do with it? You swallow. Tell it. Not enough, she murmurs. Will you guard it? You hesitate. I don't know what that means. It means retelling it even when no one listens. It means believing it even when it's only yours. It means watching for echoes, because this story always returns. In dictators. In doubters. In ships that try to claim what isn't theirs. You understand now. The pirates weren't just greedy men. They were the kind of people who never see divinity when it isn't wearing a crown. They were those who laugh at miracles and then punish the faithful. And Dionysus? He doesn't punish. He reminds. You bow. The archivist rises. From her hand, she offers a pen carved from dolphin bone and tipped with obsidian. Then write, she says. You take it. You don't know where the page is, but something tells you it's been inside you all along. Every heartbeat, every breath, every step you've taken since you first heard the god's name. And so you begin. You write the pirates into the sea. You write Dionysus into the wind. You write yourself into the weave between them. And the story begins again. Not the same. Never the same. But always true. The final chapter doesn't feel final. You're back on the sea. Alone again, at least. That's what it looks like. The dream ship. The archivist. Even the glowing sails with their stories. All of it dissolved behind you like breath on glass. But nothing's gone. Not really. You carry it now. The boat you're on looks like the same one you started with. But isn't. It smells of time and old wine. And the wood beneath your feet has a pulse, not metaphorically. It actually beats. Slowly. Like it's breathing with you. You sit at the center of the deck. The water is still. The sky dimming with the first blush of dusk. And the pen of dolphin bone rests beside you. Quietly waiting. You haven't used it yet. Not fully. Because this isn't the kind of story you scribble in a rush. This story asks for patience. For care. For return. The sea sings beneath you. Low and wordless. You listen. And somewhere in that rhythm, you begin to understand the real transformation. Not theirs. Yours. Because now you see the world the way Dionysus sees it, tilted slightly. A little upside down, a little sideways. Every laugh is sacred. Every mistake, a metaphor. Every silence, a stanza. You remember the pirate's rope in your hand. The child's toy. The scholar's page. None of them were chosen for punishment. They were chosen for change. You were, too. You remember something Dionysus said. They were lost. So I turned them into something that always finds its way back. That's you now. You're not a hero. Not a god. Not even a proper historian. But you're someone who listens. Someone who writes it down. someone who remembers. The dolphins reappear around the boat. One by one. This time, you don't gasp. You smile. Because you see who they are now. Not sea creatures. Keepers. A pod of silent, joyful archivists. And you belong with them. So you put the pen to wood, not because someone told you to, but because there's no other way forward. The mask is at your side. The ivy crown rests on your shoulder. You write. Once, on a sea where stories slept, a god offered a second chance, not in gold or glory, but in breath and salt and song. And the story continues. Because it always does. Because someone always listens. And now, that someone is you. The sea rocks you gently. Slow as the breath of the earth itself. The dolphins fade into the distance, not leaving. Just drifting far enough away to let you rest. The mask you carried settles beside you. No longer humming. No longer warm. Just quiet. You close your eyes. The boat doesn't stop, it never does, but the journey feels softer now. Lighter. As if it's carrying you through dream instead of water. Above, the stars blink into place one by one. Familiar, friendly, and far less lonely than before. You don't need to ask where you're headed. You don't need to speak. The archivist's voice echoes faintly, not in your ears, but somewhere deeper. You wrote it. It's yours now. That's enough. You let go of the story. Just for tonight. It knows the way back. Your breath slows. Your fingers uncurl. The rhythm of the sea and the creak of the boat blend into a lullaby older than any myth. And in that stillness, you feel it. Not the end, but the beginning of something timeless. Gentle. True. Sleep comes not like a wall, but a wave, slow, shimmering, and full of memory. Let it take you. The story will be here when you wake.